Coming to you from the corporate headquarters of Malace HR in Troy, Michigan. Welcome to the Malace Cast, the official podcast of Malace HR.
Hello and welcome to the first Malace Cast, the official podcast of Malace HR. I'm LJ.
And I'm Sarah.
And we'll be your host today. We're really excited to launch this podcast and expand our presence online. We're going to feature interviews, tips, and stories about our experiences in the staffing world. We'll have a new podcast out every other Monday. And today we've got a lot to talk about. But before we do, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel, as well as our pages on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. On today's episode, we'll be featuring a segment called Story Time. In this segment, we're going to share stories about ourselves, clients, and our employees. Funny stories, success stories, and everything in between. So with that being said, how are you doing today, Sarah?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Really excited about this podcast.
Me too. I feel so honored to be the first host with you on this. We're going to set the bar super high for anybody else who comes behind us, but I
set the standard.
I like it.
So what kind of stories? With going off of the segment of story time, what kind of stories do you have? I know you've been in the industry a little bit longer than I have. I'm sure you've got all sorts of stories, good, bad, funny, success. What kind of stories do you want to share today?
So one of my favorite stories, we get into this industry and a lot of people don't really understand what it means to be a recruiter. They think that you get, spammed messages through LinkedIn and such, but we are really invested in being that partner for the companies that we work with and the candidates. We represent them both. And I tell all my candidates that, I'm here to represent you as much as I am to represent the company that hired me. My favorite story of all time, I was given this role that we knew was going to be a tough one. It was for a director of construction, which there just aren't a lot of those in the entire country. So it's in Metro Detroit and, search for it for a while. It's what I call a slow burn, which you're going to work on it and it's just going to take time to find the right candidate. Lo and behold, my recruiter magic that I have.
Magic.
Not at all. It was actually not at all me, but I was able to connect with a candidate who was living in California. He was working as a site manager. His company was going to go out of business and he had been actively looking to get back to Michigan, but knew that he was probably going to have to take a step back because these roles aren't out there. He happened to stumble upon one of my postings. We connected, had a conversation, just an all around great guy. Talked about how he and his wife were looking to start a family and come back to Michigan to do so they could be close to their families. Connected him with our company that we worked with. They loved him, did an initial screening just via Zoom and over the phone. And then they brought him in, flew him over to Michigan, had the whole couple of days planned out for him, taking him to dinner, wooing him. And, I knew that he was really wanting to do this role and they didn't know how bad, is he really going to move from here, California to get here? So anyway, all that being said, they loved him. They extended him an offer and he was able to move himself and his wife back here. They helped him with relocation, all that stuff. So it was just like this perfect storm of the perfect person with the perfect company and the perfect timing. And those things are what makes every paycheck I get worthwhile because it's I love the fact that we were able to help him. Love the fact that we were able to find our company a great person. And, they keep coming back and asking us for more people all the time because we provided them with such an elite candidate in such a great scenario.
Yeah, you got to love it when all those things come together, finding the right person at the right company at the right time, and especially a position like that, a director. I mean, these are not easy, they're not, all over the place. You got to actually hunt. You got to find. A lot of times you actually have to pull these directors from other companies,
yes.
Because there ain't a whole lot of directors out there just, unemployed. So I know that these are really tough positions. And it's kind of a contrast compared to some of our other positions where, we have a lot of positions that we're looking for, a lot of people that we're trying to fill the orders. And there seems to be a lot more candidates out there. I do know, is William, is he still employed there?
He absolutely is. I check in with him on time to time and just, how are things going? And he's just like, Sarah, I love you. So yeah. He did the work, really. I just happened to make the connection. But yeah, it's a good person to have when you're having the bad days, to know that you can make those good days happen for other people.
Right.
So yeah, I love William.
Now, was there any issues with him being in California, you being in Michigan? Was there like a time change deal? How did you guys communicate?
It was all over the phone for the most part. I mean, we, emailed when it needed to be done, but, he was excited to see my phone calls because that meant we were moving in a direction that he wanted.
Right.
Yeah, it worked out really well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I've got a story. This one actually comes from Helen, one of our recruiters down in Dallas. And, she's working on positions that are between around, $13 to $15 an hour. They're working at a logistics facility for one of our clients. And they had an orientation where they had a number of new employees starting. And typically everyone wears, jeans, boots, a t-shirt. And that's kind of your typical orientation attire. Well, Helen's candidate or new employee, he came in a full-fledged suit, stuck out everything. And a lot of people in that situation might think, oh boy, I just overdressed. I'm off. Well, he did not think this. He was of the belief that you need to always dress for success. And you know what happened after the orientation?
What?
The management from that orientation pulled him aside, offered him a better job at a higher rate, all because he was dressed and ready for success, and I think it makes a good point as you can never be over prepared. You can never think that you're overdoing it by being professional, and we're going into a workplace and trying to make the best impression that you can.
Yes. Actually, when I met with your dad for my interview, I had asked somebody who worked here previously, like, do I need to wear a suit for this? Is it more casual? Like, what is and he was like, oh, no, you definitely need to wear a suit for it. and then your dad showed up to my interview in a flannel jacket and jeans. So, but I mean, you can do that when you're the CEO of a company.
Yeah.
So
lumberjack interviewing Hillary Clinton over here.
Basically.
Well, we're working on the casual days, trying to implement that more. You got any other stories that you wanted to share today?
Yeah. So we have a recruiter. His name is, we have a couple Chris's in the office. So we affectionately call this one Bow Tie, because talk about dressing for success. This man wears a bow tie every day. So he had a candidate that was just, he'd reached out to, and we were working with a company who was looking for somebody in his role, but he had already been offered a role for above and beyond what he was currently making, but it would have had to have made him move out of town, which he didn't want to do, didn't want to leave his wife and kid. So, Bow Tie was able to talk to him and say, hey, I think you should give this job a shot. There's plenty of room for growth. You're an excellent candidate. We really think we can get you in the door, and you'll get to where you need to be. So he actually passed up a $90,000 a year job to take a $23 an hour job with one of our companies. And within the first 2 weeks of working there, they just saw, everything that he was made of and offered him promotions. And he'd been there a minute, so he got an initial promotion of over $12 an hour.
Wow.
And then after being there for a little while, and kind of moving up and advancing, he is at $105K. And he's got shares of stock in the company and all kinds of things. Like, yeah, I mean, he took a chance on Chris. And that's what, that's the great thing about working with the recruiters. We know our companies. We know the ones that are available to show some growth and to give opportunities to people as long as they work hard. And he took a chance on Chris and Bow Tie and what he was able to bring to the table. And man, that guy just succeeded and made Chris look good and made us look good and put himself in the best position for his family. Yeah,
you can't ask for anything better than that. And what I like to tell people and that we're working with candidates is, I view us and I view them. All right. You are the LeBron James, Tom Brady. You are the mega sports star. And I'm your agent, all right? My goal is to get you on the best team with the most money as possible. And we're here to back you up. And that is really, I know staffing companies tend to get a bad rep sometime, but that is really the benefit of working with one, is that you have someone pulling the strings, knocking on the doors and making sure that your name is getting out there, your resume is getting in front of the right people. Yep. Just advocating for our own people. That's an incredible story, though.
What's yours? I know you've got one.
So mine is more of a personal story, to be honest with you. This is about my first time interviewing someone.
How long ago was that?
That was 13 years ago. 16 years old. I'm sure. Do you remember your first interview before I start? You remember when your first interview was? Were you nervous? Were you Annie? How was that?
No. My mother called me and told me your grandpa got you a job at the local hardware store.
Oh my God.
So I went in to the local hardware store and they're like, "You're Sarah?" "Yep, I'm Sarah." "Okay, you're going to be a cashier. You start Monday." And that was my first interview. So mine's kind of lame, but all right, tell me yours.
Well, this is more of me interviewing someone.
Okay.
So, because I didn't really have to interview, I interviewed by birth, by being born.
Here's the throne, son. Start interviewing.
So I want to take you back to a magical time, 2009. I am 16 years old, and very awkward phase of my life. I'm at the point in my life where like my gene pool had kind of just like thrown its arms up and was like, I don't even know what to do here. Braces, awkward, high-pitched voice, weird hair, whatever.
We're going to give this kid personality and let him go.
Exactly. And I was working for Byron, and for all of our listeners, Byron's currently our vice president, a great guy, hard worker, little eccentric. Well, Byron wanted me to start recruiting for switchers for one of our clients in Flint. And if you're not familiar, what a switcher does is rather than a truck driver moving trailers to different locations, a switcher actually moves the trucks and the trailers around an individual yard. So they're moving shipments from one yard around the yard and back and forth and doing unloading and that kind of stuff. So I'm 16, never called anybody for a job, never interviewed anybody, got through about a dozen phone calls, and finally, I was able to actually convince someone to come in and interview for the position. So the day comes when the interview is coming up, real nervous, kind of heart's pounding, got those butterflies. And the guy walks in, we get him into our interview room, and then this was at the old office. So this, if you want to think of it, there was a large glass wall on one side and then drywall on the other. So my back was to the drywall and the candidate's back was to the glass hallway. So I'm going through, knocking out all the, your typical questions, just trying to get through it. And I look behind the guy, and here comes Byron just walking back and forth. And he's kind of giving me like a weird smile. And I'm like, oh boy, I see him out of my peripherals. I'm like, oh boy, what's going on here? And he walks away, and I'm like, all right, coast is clear. Getting halfway through the interview, here comes Byron. He has got one of those fake, those like fake trees from like the early or late 90s. Everyone had a fake tree for some reason.
Lots of fake trees.
And I love real trees. But anyways, he comes and he's got a fake tree straddled between his legs, and he comes out and he is riding this tree like a horse. And I am doing everything in my power to not just bust out, start laughing. So I'm like holding it together, and he's like making all these faces at me. Well, at some point, a little smirk appeared. I couldn't help it. And the guy looks at me dead in the eyes. He goes, "Something funny about my experience?" I'm like, no, sir. I just laugh sometimes when I'm nervous. And I had to go with that line because I couldn't tell him, "No, sir, there is a fully grown man straddling a tree, riding it like a horse over your left shoulder." That wasn't an option
nice
at that time. No,
nice
so we had to go with it. Went with the nervous laughter and got through the interview. And it's crazy because the guy worked 90 days for us and then actually got hired in full time by the client. And, the rest is history. So there's actually a happy ending to magic. What was kind of a traumatic memory for me as a 16-year-old. But it's cool now because, Byron and I, we work hand in hand every day on accounts. And that is one of our favorite stories to at least one of his favorite stories to reminisce about.
Of that, I have no doubt. Byron is the easiest person to, because he's so serious all the time.
Right.
But if you mess with him, like the man hates feet. So we specifically for our Halloween, we did this trick or treat thing around the office, right? So you get to pick somebody to either give a trick or a treat to.
Okay.
And we gave Byron an office full of feet. So when he came in, there was fake feet and feet on the walls, pictures of feet. There were feet everywhere. So Byron gives it, but he also takes it pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, you got to give and take.
Well, all that being said, I hope you enjoyed us giving you this first podcast. Super, super excited to be here with you. We look forward to bringing you guys all kinds of awesome content in the next few weeks. My name is Sarah.
I'm LJ.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to follow us on social media and at Malace HR, and be sure to like and subscribe to Malace TV on YouTube. See you next time.
Bye.
There you go. You've been listening to the Malace Cast, the official podcast of Malace HR, available on YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe now to Malace TV, available on YouTube, and we'll see you on our next Malace Cast.